Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sya Om Jnana Timarandasya Yanajana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Guruganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Abhidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwa Gurunja Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavananam Balarka Chelanshitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Vanditam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shridaram Vansha Kalpatarubhyas Chakripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur. And this is with translation by Sarvabhavana Das. And this is Madhya-khanda, chapter 24. Sri Chaitanya reveals his universal form. All glory to Lord Chaitanya. He is the epitome of divine peace. He protects the pious and annihilates the miscreants. All glories to the son of Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata. He is glorified with choice verses. All glory to Lord Chaitanya, the life and purest treasure in the heart of Jagannananda Pandit, Haridas and Kashishwar. You are an ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and the maintainer of all living entities. Whoever surrenders unto you, you accept him and become his master. Sri Chaitanya could not live without kirtan as he passed his time in Navadip. The kirtan started to have such an effect upon him that as soon as he heard the holy name, he would fall down in ecstasy wherever he was. Tears would flow profusely from his eyes as he became saturated with love of Krishna. If anyone for any reason said aloud the Lord's name, Chaitanya would swoon to the ground, and the symptoms of ecstasy would start to manifest on his person as he rolled on the ground. Such displays of sublime spiritual ecstasy are indeed very rare, and even Brahma would consider himself blessed to witness such happenings. Yet now the residents of Navadip saw the enchantment of these transcendental activities often right upon their streets. Sometimes when the Lord experienced the most intense ecstasy, he would become unconscious and his body would be numbed into stillness. On these occasions, the devotees would carry him away, themselves feeling sublime joy. Bringing him behind closed doors in an unconscious state, they would again start up a kirtan, which would submerge the entire universe in waves of spiritual bliss. The different devotional ecstasies that would manifest on the Lord's person were all inexplicable, and their esoteric significance often unrecognizable. Sometimes the Lord would speak out saying, "I am Madan Gopal," and then with a sudden change of mood, he would say, "I am an eternal servant of Krishna." On certain days, thinking of the damsels of Vrindaban, he would incessantly repeat, Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. And if he as much as heard Krishna's name, he would burn inside with increasing anger and say, where is this Krishna of yours coming from, this big rogue? He is a cheat, full of cunning, and a hypocrite. Who can think of worshiping him? He wins the heart of ladies, and then once they trust him, he cuts off their ears and noses like a hunter. In this manner, he would speak out angrily to anyone who repeated Krishna's name in his presence. Again, on other days, he would call out, Vrindaban, Gokula, Mathura, in great joy, and then on other occasions he would draw the standing form of a person bent in three places, and gazing upon it, he would weep so bitterly that it seemed as if the entire world would drown in his tears. He would at times say, I see a huge, dense forest full of lions, tigers, and bears. In this way, the Lord was absorbed in the moods of the most sublime devotion, where night became day and day became night. The devotees who watched these transcendental pastimes would be overcome with great spiritual emotions and would embrace one another. Even Brahma constantly prays for the favor of witnessing these ecstatic manifestations of the Lord. Yet for these devotees, all was so easily seen. The Lord was now spending almost all his time outside his own house, in the residences of the different devotees. He gave up all his familial and external responsibilities. However, sometimes he would do something to please his mother. Constantly now, the devotees felt intense joy in having the Lord always with them, and their bliss in kirtan was ever increasing. Nityananda, Advaita, and Gadadhar never left the Lord's association, always participating in his infinite transcendental activities. One day, Advaitacharya, overcome in the mood of the gopis, began to dance, while all the devotees sang with intense feelings. He danced in great joy and elation, but also with great humility and distress. He fell to the ground, holding a straw in his teeth, and began to roll about intoxicated by the divine nectar of love of Krishna. Advaita continued to dance for several hours, but the other devotees became exhausted and were unable to keep up with him. Finally, the devotees quieted him and making him sit down, sat around him. Finding Advaita somewhat tranquil, Srivas, Pandit, Ramai, and a few others went for their baths. However, soon again, Advaita was overcome with feelings of distress as they gradually increased in intensity. He began to roll in the courtyard of Srivas. Sri Chaitanya was resting in his house after some duties, and Advaita's feelings of humility and distress became known to the Lord. The Lord always soothes away the distress and worries of his devotees, and so Chaitanya came to see Advaita. Seeing him supine in the courtyard of Srivas, Chaitanya took him by the hand, led him into the temple, and shut the doors. Giving Advaita a consoling smile, the Lord said, "Listen, Acharya, tell me what is your desire right now? What is to be done?" Advaita said, "O Lord, you are the essence of all the Vedas. I want only you. What else is there to want?" The Lord laughed slightly and replied, "Here I am in person, then what more do you want?" Advaita insisted, "What you say is true. Here you are before me, the absolute truth. Yet I would like to see some of your mystic opulences. The Lord softly asked, tell me, what do you desire? Advaita said, my Lord, I intensely desire to see what Arjuna saw long ago. As soon as he had spoken these words, Advaita saw a chariot in the midst of a raging battlefield. Millions of soldiers were engaged in combat all around the chariot. Sitting inside the chariot was the beautiful blackish four-handed form of Krishna, holding in each of his hands the conch, mace, lotus, and disc. At that moment, Advaita beheld the universal form of Krishna. All the planets and stars, such as the sun and moon, the mountains, rivers, oceans, and forests were visible within this wondrous manifestation of Krishna. Advaita saw Arjuna standing before this universal form, offering words of praise and prayer with folded hands. Advaita saw millions of pairs of eyes and millions of open cavernous mouths. From the mouths, huge licking flames were exuding. All the atheists and sinful demons were being sucked into this mighty conflagration to be consumed. The fault finders and the heartless ones who prepare violence upon others, all burned in the flames from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya. Advaita was blessed with the special mercy of the Lord, and therefore he could see the marvelous universal form of Sri Chaitanya. As Advaita saw this universal form, he began to cry in great ecstasy due to his intense love for the Lord, and falling to his knees in great humility, he begged the Lord for his eternal association as his Lord and Master. While Advaita was seeing Sri Chaitanya manifest his universal form, Sri Nityananda was roaming the streets of Navadip, absorbed in divine bliss, as was his usual occupation. Nityananda, because of his supramundane position, could immediately know that Lord Chaitanya was showing his special universal form to Advaita. He quickly went to the house of Srivas and headed straight to the temple room where Sri Chaitanya waited, expecting him. Shutting the doors behind him, Nityananda saw the unlimited universal form of the Lord before him, and falling down like a stick, he offered his obeisances and closed his eyes. The Lord spoke, "Arise, O Nityananda. You are as dear to me as my own life. You know everything about me. Anyone who is attached to you in loving devotion, I make him my own. No one is dearer to me than you, and anyone who tries to see differences between you and Advaita will never gain. Anyone who sees difference between you, Nityananda, and Advaita will never gain the proper knowledge for understanding either the Supreme Lord or myself in this incarnation." Nityananda and Advaita began to dance jubilantly, and Sri Chaitanya responded with a thunderous voice, saying, "Just look at yourselves." Nityananda and Advaita, overwhelmed with joy, started glorifying the Lord with beautiful prayers, and Vishwambar smiled upon them with great appreciation. Although all these transcendental incidences were being enacted in the residence of Srivas, none of the other devotees could see them. These narrations are from the lotus mouth of Advaitacharya, and those who do not have faith in them are the most abominable of sinners. Those who do not glorify Lord Chaitanya as the supreme absolute truth are evil-hearted men who are to be avoided by saintly personalities. My greatest hope and assurance is that Chaitanya is the master of my dear Master Nityananda. My greatest hope and assurance is that Sri Chaitanya is the master of my dear Master Nityananda Prabhu. The Lord chose Nityananda to reveal his pastimes openly before the Lord chose Nityananda to reveal his pastimes openly before the public eye. Yet only the devotees could comprehend their esoteric content. Devotional service to the Supreme is the most valuable wealth anyone can possess, and the zenith of devotion is when one weeps in ecstatic bliss, remembering the holy name of Krishna. One cannot develop love of Krishna by material means. Only by sincerely calling out to Krishna can one eventually chant Krishna's names purely. In addition, one may attain this state of perfect joy easily if one hears with implicit faith the narration of Sri Chaitanya exhibiting the universal form to Advaita Acharya Nityananda Prabhu. Finally, Chaitanya left for his residence with all the other devotees. Nityananda and Advaita did not inform another soul about seeing the Lord manifest his universal form. They were still mad with joy, and they rolled about on the ground, sometimes singing, sometimes dancing, and sometimes clapping hands. As they were thus engrossed in merriment, soon they began to argue and abuse each other. Advaita said, "You simpleton, drunkard, who asked you to come to this place?" So, why did you force your way in here? Who calls you a sannyasi? No one knows your family background or caste, and it is well known that you eat in the house of anyone from any caste. How does a mad, intoxicated person like you find himself in the company of Vaishnavas? If you do not leave right away, then you will find yourself in real trouble. Nityananda replied, "You baldy fellow, you would be wise to sit quietly. I will first show you my power and strength with a few blows. You foggy old Brahmin, have you no fear? I am an avadut renunciate and the brother of the Lord. You are a householder, totally engrossed in family life, whereas I am a fully renounced and realized soul. If I strike you, you cannot say or do anything, yet without reason you are trying to show off in front of me." These words incensed Advaita with a burning rage. He flung off his clothes in all directions and began to severely chastise Nityananda. He said, "You fish eater, you meat eater, how do you call yourself a sannyasi? I have undressed myself before you in sheer disgust. Who knows you? What about your parents, your house? Nothing about you is known to anyone, let anyone come forward, identify you, and recognize you. You are just a thief, simply wanting to eat everything, gobble up anything, and destroy all. You claim to be in the sannyas order. Well, a sannyasi does not demand anything, but you fill up your belly 3 times a day. This Srivas Pandit cannot discriminate between the people of different castes. That is why he has allowed this avadut to join the company of the Vaishnavas. He does not understand that this so-called avadut will ruin everyone's caste and reputation. What a menace this drunkard is. It is difficult for ordinary folks to understand this exchange of spiritual love between these two, which sounds so much like a pernicious verbal fight. No one should commit the material blunder of supporting one against the other. The deep spiritual significance of such abusive exchanges between the devotees are unfathomable to most. And if in ignorance of this fact someone glorifies Advaita and denounces, for example, Gadadhar Pandit, then certainly he will be doomed and neither be considered a devotee of Advaita either. The activities of the Supreme Lord and the Vaishnavas are all transcendental and incomprehensible to the materialist. An atheist can never understand that both the Lord and his pure devotees are on the same transcendental plane. Let's see. An atheist can never understand that both the Lord and his pure devotees are on the same transcendental plane. One who worships the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, seeing all Vaishnavas to be dear to the Lord, will indeed cross over the ocean of material nescience. Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, and Sri Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. So, I'll continue with. This is Madhya-khanda, chapter 25. The dead son of Srivas Pandit elucidates the truth. All glory to Sri Gaurachandra, the Lord of the entire universe. He is the crown jewel of the Brahmins, the perfect renunciant, and supreme amongst all the Vedic personalities. He is an ocean of compassion who has appeared like a brilliant gem out of the womb of the Blessed Mother Sachi. All glory to Sri Vishwambar and Sri Nityananda. All glory to their devotees and associates. One attains the highest perfection of life by constantly hearing the narrations of Sri Chaitanya's transcendental pastimes. These topics of Navadip Leela, as recorded in the Madhya-khanda, are like an ocean of nectar. The Lord was always engrossed in Sankirtan, relishing the taste of his own transcendental name. Being thus intoxicated, he exhibited all the symptoms of ecstasy, and so revealed his supramundane opulences. The sweet ambrosia of Krishna Prem led the Lord to act like a madman. The Lord, whose body is the object of even Lord Brahma's worship, was besmeared with dust from rolling upon the ground. The devotees satiated their vision by seeing the Lord submerged in an ocean of divine bliss. In the times when he emerged out of his blissful state of unconsciousness, he would sometimes sit surrounded by his associates, and at other times go to the Ganga to take a bath. On some occasions, after dancing for a long time, the Lord would sit with his devotees, who would then give him a shower with Ganga water. One of the maidservants of Srivas Pandit, named Duki, would carry all the Ganga water for the Lord's bath while the Lord was still engaged in dancing. She would watch the beautiful form of the Lord dancing in the highest spiritual exaltation, and tears would well up in drops from her eyes. And then she would go out again to bring more pots of Ganga water for his bath. When the Lord saw the water pots full of Ganga water, neatly arranged in rolls, he was very pleased. He inquired about this from Srivas Pandit. Who brings the Ganga water daily? Srivas replied, Duki, the maidservant, brings them daily. The Lord said, then you all should rename her Sukhi, happy, instead of Duki, which means sad. The name Duki is not befitting her, and I think Sukhi is the most appropriate name for her. This is one of the maidservants of Srivas Pandit, named Duki, but Mahaprabhu said, then you should rename her Sukhi, happy, instead of Dukhi, which means sad. The devotees were moved to tears upon seeing the unlimited mercy of the Lord upon this poor maidservant. From that time, they began to call her Sukhi, and Srivas Pandit also stopped regarding and treating her as a maidservant. This illustrates that one can easily attain Krishna's lotus feet by loving devotional service to him. One cannot avoid the jaws of death merely by shaving one's head as a mark of renunciation. Material knowledge, high birth, beauty, and wealth are useless if not used for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna with pure devotional attachment. So I'm going to, for today, I'm going to stop, and I'll continue tomorrow. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jarabaya Nama. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jarabaya Nama. Jarabaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jarabaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Janardan Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Janardan Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhatta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaoite Vignana Shabista Puran. Jaoite Vignana Shabista Puran. Jai Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Jai Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Tasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. Tasabar Pada Renu Panchagras. Tadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Tadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame More Abilas. Janame More Abilas. Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Koe Naratamudas. Nam Sankirtana Koe Naratamudas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara, Shishi Guru Goranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakshira Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Bhagawat Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishwavarenya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Koladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.